Hi, welcome to Behind the Scenes with Axiom Medical. I'm your host, Jason McElwain. I'm the brand and creative manager here at Axiom Medical. If this is your first time joining us, this is a bi-weekly series where we go behind the scenes here at Axiom Medical and talk to the people that make this company tick. We'll officially hit a year next week, which is interesting. I've interviewed a lot of people over this past year in a lot of different departments, different walks of life. And for this week, I'm very happy to bring you our president and CEO, Mr. Mark Robinson. Mark, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Jason. How are you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. It's extremely warm here in South Texas, as you know.
I'm blessed to be in Eureka, Montana right now. I have a second home up in Montana that I'm able to escape the heat to. When I woke up this morning, it was 58 degrees and raining, which is a thing of beauty.
That's very lucky. It's 91 here and partly sunny. I usually keep things in Celsius, but for some reason it's in Fahrenheit today.
Well, now that you're a citizen, Jason, you'll have to adopt the official metrics of the nation and actually Fahrenheit yourself. For those that don't know, Jason and I have something in common. We're both proud immigrants to this country. We both have become naturalized Americans, and we're both really grateful for the opportunity to be here and to participate in this amazing experiment that started 200 and some years ago.
Exactly. And I cannot, after living here for 18 years, I cannot wait to be able to vote, to actually have a say in things. So that's going to be fantastic.
I think it's amusing that we're able to pay taxes long before we can vote.
Right. Yeah. There's a taxation before representation, something like that.
That's about it. Yes.
Well, let's dive into it. Why don't you introduce? Everyone at our company knows who you are, and you're a very well-known person. But why don't we jump into introducing yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Mark Robinson, as Jason so ably said. I have the pleasure of having lived and worked all over the world, having started my life in Wales in the UK. Worked in 19 different countries, arrived in the US in 1995, and it became the place that I lived by 1997. So 25 years of full-time US residence just coming up. I'm an engineer originally, then went into banking, information technology and systems development, outsourcing of various business processes. Started and built and sold a couple of consulting companies, then became a private equity CEO for my sins, and I worked with Axiom's investors on another property called Cardin Outreach, which was a very successful investment and a very successful company, a great healthcare company, helping people, hospitalized patients, find payment sources for the treatments that they were struggling to pay for. And that company did extremely well. After that, I spent a couple of years consulting with various private equity and venture capital companies, looking at investments of theirs that weren't doing well. And then I was approached to take the CEO role at Axiom Medical, which I have to say is one of the most wonderful and valuable things that I've had the opportunity to do. It is another wonderful healthcare business. It is a feel-good business because everything we do helps everybody we touch. We provide services to our clients' employees around emergency medicine, preventive testing, and a variety of other services, including most recently, and one I'm really proud of, mental and behavioral health support. So that's me in a nutshell.
A very quick nutshell. So what exactly brought you to the United States in the first place?
Opportunity. I came here to open a branch office of a company that I had founded in the UK and taken all around Europe. And I moved to Silicon Valley because why not, right? And I developed that business, grew it significantly. We sold it. I decided to stay mostly because I fell in love with somebody, which kind of happens when you're in somewhere for a long time. So And my now wife actually lived in New York. So having finished up in Silicon Valley, I spent time in Tin Pan Alley. Um, and lived in the West Village in New York for a while, and then in Florida for a while, in Fort Lauderdale, and then Houston. Added a place in Montana a decade ago, which I love Montana, by the way. And then thank you to COVID, which has caused so much stress and dramatic adverse impact to so many people. I and our whole company have been able to work from home and work from home as an intentional way of living rather than simply a convenience to avoid COVID. It was an experiment. It played out really well. Productivity has not been adversely impacted at all. 90+% of the employee base are super thrilled to be able to work from home. It saves them commute time, commute costs, gives them more family time. We're very flexible about how people work, so that's, I think, a benefit. And we had a strong culture, so that's a benefit. But the benefit to me was that I was able to fulfill a 20-year ambition and move my Texas home from the Woodlands to Fredericksburg. For those that don't know, Fredericksburg is a town in the Texas Hill Country that was settled by German pioneers in the 1840s, and most of the town still represents that set of origins. It's a really cool place to visit, and it's an even cooler place to live.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the state. There's a lot to offer there, and for people that don't know, it's, I guess, considered Texas's wine country. There's a lot of vineyards out there. There's a lot of winemakers out there.
It's the second largest wine production area in the United States. I have to say the quality does not yet match that available from California or Oregon, but it's coming up, and the winemakers who are now moving out to the Hill Country are from California and Oregon, and they're bringing the skills and the vine stock that they developed there to Texas. And I think within a decade, we're going to start seeing Texas wines compete on a level playing field with wines from the best wine regions on earth.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't drink, by the way, so I will never know personally.
My wife is a sommelier, so she's a fan of some. And I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to give an official Axiom medical recommendation, but there's some great places out in Fredericksburg and High Texas.
Certainly improving, and yes.
So do you want to talk about, you have a project that you have in Fredericksburg. You bought an old house that has a barn behind it. You and your wife have been putting a lot of work into that. Do you want to take us behind the curtain on that? And I can bring up your Instagram account if you'd like.
By all means. But the house is an 1870s pioneer farmhouse that was in a relatively neglected state when I bought it a year ago. That's the house as it is now. So I put a lot of time and effort into it. When I say effort, I've told other people what to do, and they've done it for me, because I don't have the skills to renovate a property myself. But we bought this a year ago. We kind of thought we might stay in that house for longer, but we found one in the center of the town that we really liked. And my wife is a very social creature, being a New York Italian, whereas I'm one of those stoic WASP types that can quite happily live a long way from other people. So we decided that we were actually going to buy this other house in the center of town, and we finished our renovation project and remodeling, and we put the house on the market, 2 weeks ago, I think. Well, what's the date on that post? That's only 3 weeks ago. And we accepted an offer on it yesterday. So,
oh, fantastic!
Yes,
that's great news.
Yes. So I feel really good that I've brought something back to life that has been a part of the history of the area and has lots of architectural merit as well. and I'm now passing it on to good people who will take care of it and do more.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I don't know if people can see here. There's an older building here in the back that you've lit up rather beautifully.
Yeah, that one that's the original. It was originally a home, in fact, and became back in that time. The home and the stables were one building, and they added on to that. So that was built in about 1847. It was added to in the 1850s, and then they built the new house, which is this one, started in 1871, and gradually the older property fell into ruin. And I feel the ruins are beautiful, so I wanted to allow them to live on with some pretty lighting as a feature. And I if I had stayed, I would probably have remodeled it completely and brought it back to life as a guest house.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Congratulations on the offer. I guess I don't have to share the Zillow listing then.
No, you don't. We're not marketing my house through the company's channel, but thank you for that. Look, it's something of a hobby of mine. And a moral commitment. I've left everything I've owned in a better state than it was when I found it. Every home, every piece of land. I believe in improving and being a good custodian, and I think by doing that, we contribute to the fabric of our society. We're vested in our society, and we bring good things forward for future generations. And I love doing it.
That's a great outlook.
Yeah, and I'm a frustrated designer, so.
Well, a lot of people don't know, outside of the company don't know this, but when COVID hit, it forced us to work from home, and we sort of lost that inner office atmosphere and the sort of, dare I say, family type thing. But the talking to people on a day-to-day basis and having you being there in person and everyone else being in person. So we started to institute these weekly town hall meetings where you would get on for the majority of the first part of COVID, and then it became the executive team. But in those town hall meetings, you shared a lot of interesting things, like you're a collector of old tools and machinery, but you also shared a lot of books that you love to read. And I think the running theme for a lot of those was cooking. So I don't know if you want to know if you wanted to talk to us about cooking.
It's my other hobby. Look, I think we are what we eat. I think that we have the opportunity to do amazing things with food, to bring wonderful experiences to people. I'm no Gordon Ramsay. I'm definitely not Bobby Flay. But I have some skill in cooking, and I enjoy nothing more than to cook really challenging meals and then to bring them to the table for people to enjoy and to watch that enjoyment. And it's a huge and positive pleasure for me.
What are some of your favorite meals that you like to cook?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm married to an Italian American from New York, so pretty well everything Italian has to be on the menu. I'm particularly fond of South Asian cuisine, and I love making South Asian meals of all kinds: Indonesian, Thai, Malay, Philippine, and from my own heritage, I'm a Brit. We have meat and potatoes, and people think of British cuisine as really pretty blah, basic, and nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, British cooking is fantastic. We use things that other people have stopped using or have recently rediscovered, like the farm to table movement here. My parents grew up before and during the Second World War with rationing, and learned to eat from their parents every single part of every animal that they could get their hands on. And I inherited that. So I enjoy all kinds of food that most modern Americans turn their noses up at, like kidneys and chitlings and liver and, all of that kind of thing, pig's heads. I love food in all its dimensions.
That's great.
It's such a cultural bridge as well, right? I mean, you can communicate with food, and you can learn from food about other people all over the world.
Oh yeah, definitely. My parents are Scottish, and there's that quote that Michael Myers has in the movie, "So I married an axe murderer." says, I'm pretty sure that all Scottish cuisine is based on a dare. So,
well, and requires a significant consumption of whiskey prior to eating it.
Yeah, I remember when my dad finally told me what black pudding was, and so.
Well, black pudding is a universally British tradition, but also a French tradition, which is why you find boudin noir in New Orleans. I love black pudding. My mom used to send me down to the local abattoir with a bucket to bring it back with full of, hold it under the pig while they bled the pig out so that she could make black pudding at home.
Wild. That's amazing.
Yeah. So no, I'm not a vegan, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think we figured that out. There's a TikTok account that I should share with you. It's a woman who's married to an Italian gentleman, and she just drives him crazy with the things that she does. So she'll put her phone down, and then she'll say, "I'm going to cook spaghetti," and she'll break the noodles before it. And he's like, what are you doing?" So,
yes, I've seen that account. I've seen it. There's an echo on Instagram, so I've seen it. I'm not on TikTok. I don't want to be inadvertently exposed to anything that might corrupt me.
Oh, you know what? The algorithm is pretty good if you tell it how you feel about things. So my feed is mostly like 70% dog videos and then some stand-up comedian videos.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I don't get the crazy dancing videos and all that.
Well, I share that with you. My Instagram feed is like 70% dog videos too. All the dog reels, most of which originate on TikTok.
Well, let's talk about dogs. Let's talk about Mister, your recent dog. Do we have a photo of him on Instagram?
Probably.
Oh, there we go. Let's bring that up.
Yes. Well, Mister is a approaching 3-year-old Maltipoo. He weighs about 9.5 pounds. We rehomed him from an older lady who could not manage to give him the exercise he needed anymore. So he came with the name Mister. He is the most mischievous, loving, wonderful, smart, energetic dog I have ever met. And I'm a lifelong dog lover. And a year and a half ago had the tragedy of losing two dogs within a week over Christmas. That had been my companions for 14 years. And it took a lot of getting over. And to be fair, I don't think we ever get over huge losses. And for me, those dogs were like my kids, right? And so it's a huge loss. And you just adapt and become a person who has experienced that loss and continue life, but it never really goes away. And I know the same is true for losses of loved humans too, right? I lost my parents, and my mom particularly I was very close with, and that was very tough. But Mister came along only 8 weeks later, and neither my wife and I thought we were ready. And nonetheless, we agreed to do a sleepover so that this elderly person felt good about, people were trying to rehome her dog, and he never left. So there you go. Serendipity. You don't know what's coming into your life, so you shouldn't close any doors.
No, and he's pretty adorable. And for the people outside of the company, every once in a while, he'll make a visit on some of our live town halls like he did last week.
Absolutely, yes.
So let's talk about what does the future hold for Mark Robinson?
Ultimately, retirement at some point. I'm a little younger than my wife. We made each other a pledge that we would, and she has been long retired because we've been blessed economically. It's been feasible for us. And I made a promise to her, and we pledged to each other that we would find enough time in the later years of our lives to live a bold and bright adventure together. I'll be 62 next birthday, and that time is on the horizon. 2, 3, 4 years, I'm probably going to hang it up. But I'll still cook, and I'll still remodel homes, and I will do what I love to do more than almost anything else, which is blue water fishing.
Oh, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I've been doing that since I started with my dad in a little dinghy where we had no business being like 8 miles offshore. And that was in the Irish Sea off the coast of Wales. And then I got hooked, and I have been fishing ever since. And I particularly like fishing for large fish. I think there's a degree of triumph of man over beast that Ernest Hemingway captured magnificently in a lot of his work. And I'm looking forward to being able to fish 100 days a year instead of, fish one day every 100 years, which is what it feels like right now.
Right. Yeah, there's not a lot of big blue water fishing in Montana or Fredericksburg, I bet.
No, we lived in Fort Lauderdale for a while, and I kept a boat there, and I was able to fish a lot more. Plus, the charters out there, the charter captains are fantastic. If anybody wants to go fishing, Fort Lauderdale's a great place to go from. And then because we lived there, we could go down to the Keys a lot. And Isla Morada is probably the game fishing capital of the entire world. That's one of the Keys about halfway down. And I fished a lot from there, and then a lot from Costa Rica as well. Costa Rica on the Pacific side. I know this is probably boring for 90% of everybody.
Nope.
But Costa Rica on the Pacific side is in my opinion, some of the most magnificent fishing in the world. And it's beautiful, right? It's really beautiful. So, and the people, Costa Rican people are so warm and welcoming, and, great food too. And no pretension, which is one of the things I love. I like to travel and not be a tourist, right? I like to be able to be there as somebody living the experience, not somebody who is feeling any sense of superiority or, Western culture rules or anything like that. I like to go places and live that experience and adapt to my environment. And Costa Ricans make that easy because they're warm and welcoming.
Yeah, you said something one time where you were talking about traveling, that you and your wife like to go back to the same places, and whereas other people like to travel and they like to try different places, but you guys like to go back to like the same restaurants, sometimes to develop a relationship with the people that are the local people that are there.
Yeah, I think you get more depth from travel if you're a repeat traveler to the same destination, and I also think that you get some sense of change over time in a place, which is what the people who've lived there have experienced too. And so it makes you more able to understand that culture, that place, how it's evolving, where it's going to. You're able to bring more empathy to your encounters with people who live in the place you're privileged to be in. And when we say go back to the same place, I have visited 79 different countries on this earth, over 50 of them for business and the remainder for pleasure. And I'm now at approaching 62. I kind of know which ones I like the most.
Right.
And I've also had the pleasure of being able to travel around those countries that I like the most. And so I know the places I like the most as well within those countries. So for example, in Canada, I really love Montreal, right? But BC is pretty awesome too. And those are the two places that I still go when I go to Canada. And here in the US, I love the American West and the Gulf Coasts. And so, those are the places I keep going to. And in Europe, I obviously love London because I've spent a big chunk of my life there and my family lives there now, or has for 40 years. But I also like France because I grew up going to France every summer. And then when I was a young adult, I would go make wine trips before the euro, before all of that, before harmonization of currencies and metrics. I would go over with a van and load up wine from vineyards and bring it back and sell it to all my friends. And I would keep going to the same vineyards and build relationships with the vintners. And, I just think life is way too short. It's way, way too short. And we all, if you're not conscious of it being short, you need to make yourself conscious of it being short, because otherwise you waste a lot of it. And I really awakened to that fairly early in life, but was driven home to me by almost losing my mom to a brain tumor when she was 60. And, out of nowhere overnight. And that just made me much more conscious of my own mortality. And then over the last several years, I've had a couple of near misses myself. And I try to live every minute As I don't know if you can see this, but live life full is what it says on my mug, right? And it has all the different, like, quarter, half, etc. And that's really me. I think the secret to happiness is to wake up grateful and go to bed happy.
That's a
And
good motto.
yeah, so okay, let's turn the tables. Jason McElweeney, also known as J-Mac.
Uh-oh.
What is your favorite food?
My favorite food, my favorite cuisine would have to be Chinese food. I've always, when I was a kid, my parents would take us to a restaurant in my hometown called the Tian Sun, and my dad, my brother and I would have Shirley Temples, and we'd eat Chinese food. And then as I got older, my dad would come home from working the late shift at a factory, and he'd put his green curry and chicken in the fridge, and I would eat all the rice and the chicken and leave him the peppers and onions.
Yeah.
Chinese food.
Fantastic. And what is your favorite place to go?
Man, that's a really good question. I tend to, because I live in the fourth largest city in the United States, kind of maybe the fourth largest city in North America, or at least above Mexico, I tend to go out to West Texas, to Big Bend a lot. There's a lot of space. There's not a lot of people. It's a complete 180 from Houston. So I love to go there. I love New York City. I love California. I haven't been to Europe since I was a kid. Traveled all over Canada. I love Canada. So yeah.
Cool. I know you go to Marfa quite a lot.
Yeah.
The light there is quite extraordinary. It's one of the reasons I go to Santa Fe, right? There's that extraordinary golden light that comes in the last few hours of the day, and the angle provides all these beautiful contrasts. And I know that's important to you because you are a passionate photographer.
I am. I love photography. I figured it out at one point, how to take better photos, and I've been hooked ever since. I didn't really understand composition, and then I got composition. I was like, okay, wait a minute, I can do something here.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me. Somebody taught me about the rule of thirds and golden ratios, and I'm like, whoa, everything I'm doing now looks good.
Right? I used to take a lot of photos, and I was a bike courier in Toronto, and I had this little Canon ELPH that I would put in my courier bag, and I would take photos. And there's some Mies van der Rohe buildings in downtown Toronto that are just, to be quick, Mies van der Rohe put the inside of the building on the outside. And so they're very stark and just, lots of lines. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If I do it this way, it actually looks cool. And so I sort of learned the rule of thirds.
Yep. Good to learn from master architects.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you're also a Leica fan. Am I correct?
I am. I don't know where it is right now, but I am. Yeah. That's over here. I have a Leica Q here.
Nice.
Big fan of it. This is my second one. The first one actually got hit by a transport truck while I was trying to take a photo of the Stardust Motel sign in Marfa. So I had to replace it.
And it died. I mean, some of them hit trucks and survive.
Well, it survived, but it didn't survive very well. It's it was a little on the ropes a little bit. But let's go to some comments. We got some comments here. So Christy says, "I love Mark Robinson is one of my favorite CEOs due to his eclectic background, his entrepreneurial mindset." She says she always learns something when you speak.
Well, that's very flattering. Thank you, Christy. I try and learn something every time I speak too.
And Dr. Kurte concurs. He says, "Me too, not least because he actually means what he says and says what he means."
I try. Life is too short, as we've established before. I also benefit from something my mom said a long time ago. My mom was my ethical mentor in life, and she kind of led me down a road of, if you can't say something good, try not to say anything at all. And mostly that's led me to look for the good. Mm-hmm. And that's led me to be able to highlight the good and say good things. It doesn't mean I'm a pushover or I can be bullied or, I'm willing to be drawn down unethical routes, and quite the contrary, but it does mean that I really care about what I say.
That's true. Christy then jumps back and says, and Les Curte's Instagram also makes me hungry. He's also a cook and shares those details.
Well, we need to get Christy and Les to be more involved with our marketing program. They're obviously really, really good at flattering people.
For sure. Dara wants to know if you have any new fun recipes.
Well, it depends what counts as fun. I've been experimenting with a lot of Mexican cuisine recently, and I really have enjoyed making a authentic, where I make all the spices myself from raw ingredients, authentic Mexican cuisine, particularly a whole bunch of like fajita type recipes and carne asadas. But I've also I recently acquired an upscale from the previous one ice cream machine, and so I've been playing with different ice creams, and it is amazing what you can put in an ice cream and still make it taste great.
Really? What's one of the
weirdest?
Oh,
no. You'll see them on Instagram. I'm not going to give that away. But some of them you'd think, why would anybody put that in ice cream? But actually, it's awesome. And by the way, ice cream doesn't have to be sweet. It can be savory, and it can be sour. It can be pickled. I mean, there's all kinds of amazing things, and the coldness of it just refreshes your mouth and wakes up your palate, and that lets you experience flavors in a different way.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the best thing I've made recently in an ice cream machine though was a mango sorbet with 3 ingredients: mangoes, lime juice, and water, and it was so bright and fresh.
That sounds amazing. I want some.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to some more comments. Honestly, you're the first person that's actually turned the tables on me and asked me questions. So I was kind of expecting that, but it makes me nervous anyways. As people know, I love to be behind the camera. I'm always helping to film things.
But you also love to be on stage. You're a stand-up comedian.
Improviser. It's different, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. An unscripted stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I've got to make it up on the spot. And honestly, as a creative person, I liken it to like the Tibetan monks where they make the mandalas, and they spend all this time making it, and then they throw it into the wind at the end.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel about improv. You have to create something right away, and then it's gone.
Sure. It's like freestyle rap contests in a way.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. And again, piece of my past, just making a connection here, but I wrote and still occasionally write poetry. Most young men, angst-driven, well-educated men tend to produce all this stuff, right? And I used to do poetry slams, which is kind of similar to improv.
Okay. Well, Holly wants me to have you rate when I would say good morning. For people that don't know and never worked in the office, I could imitate Mark, but only by saying good morning. And I would always trip people up because they would think, Mark, what? One time I heard Dara say, I didn't think Mark was in the office today. So I'm going to say because for people that don't know, Mark would walk through the office when he came in the morning and say good morning to everyone that was there, which was fantastic. So I learned how to emulate you, and I'm going to try it. Holly wants you to rate it on 1 to 10. Good morning.
1.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. Well, moving on, Sarah on our graphics team said, excited to see the gourmet ice creams. They usually stop at adding Nutella and Oreos to the machine.
Nutella's great. It's so flexible, and that hazelnut flavor is wonderful. Or unless you've got the chocolate Nutella, in which case the chocolate hazelnut flavor is wonderful. There's a product you can get called Nutzo, Nutzo. Not advertising a product at all, of course, but that has lots of different nuts and seed elements in it. It's rich, it's oily, it's keto, and it's a great alternative to Nutella. Great.
Well, I think we're getting up to the end here. Any parting words or words of wisdom you want to share with people?
Well, this was way more fun than I thought it was going to be. I was looking forward to this like a visit to the dentist or a blood draw. So, J-Mac, thank you for making it easy and comfortable and fun. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about myself, which is something most people kind of enjoy, I guess, once they relax into it.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us, and I think there's no better way to celebrate a year of doing this than to interview our president and CEO.
Well, and let's make a date for a year from now.
All right, I got you. This is recorded and this is going out on the internet.
I made a commitment, darn it. I should have learned better than to make commitments on the fly. Thank you, Jason.
Well, yeah, well, have a great day, Mark. Have a great day, everybody else, and we'll see you down the road.
Bye now.